What happens when the undercover CEO sees his company through the eyes of a regular customer? Liam Carter, the CEO of a booming cafe chain, thought his business was thriving until complaints started piling up. Customers frustrated, employees burned out, and managers turned toxic. Something was wrong, but no report could show him the full picture. So he took matters into his own hands. Disguised as an everyday customer, Liam stepped into his own cafes, and what he discovered changed everything. Betrayal, bad leadership, and unsung heroes holding everything together. This is the Undercover CEO story you won't forget. Liam Carter had always envisioned his cafe chain as more than just a place to grab coffee. It was meant to be a welcoming space where employees and customers alike felt valued. What started as a single neighborhood cafe quickly expanded into a thriving business with 20 locations across multiple cities. But lately, something felt off. Complaints about rude staff, slow service, and disengaged employees were piling up. Online reviews described inattentive cashiers, long wait times, and even unprofessional behavior from management. At first, Liam relied on reports from his regional managers, but the carefully filtered updates lacked real insight. His gut told him there was a bigger issue at play, one that couldn't be understood from behind a desk. If he wanted the truth, he needed to experience it firsthand. That's when he made the bold decision to go undercover. Ditching his usual business attire for a simple hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap, he transformed into an ordinary customer. It wasn't difficult. Most employees had never seen him in person. And with the company growing so quickly, he had become more of a name than a face. His plan was simple. Visit 3 different locations, observe the staff, interact with employees, and uncover the reality of his own business. What he discovered over the next few days would change everything. Liam's first stop was one of his busiest cafes, a flagship location in the heart of downtown. As he stepped inside, the scene was far from the polished image his company promoted. The cafe was chaotic. Tables were left uncleared, a spill near the self-service station had been ignored, and customers looked increasingly frustrated as they waited for their orders. He scanned the counter, where a young barista, Danielle, was taking orders with an air of complete disinterest. Her earbuds dangled around her neck as she barely glanced at the customers, her tone clipped and indifferent. When it was Liam's turn, he ordered a simple black coffee and a pastry. Danielle sighed, punched in the order, and muttered under her breath, "God, I hate this job." Liam's stomach tightened. If she was this vocal in front of customers, what was she like behind the scenes? As he stepped aside to wait for his order, Liam noticed Rosa, an older employee moving briskly around the cafe, wiping down tables and tending to customers who looked lost in the chaos. She worked efficiently but without any recognition from her coworkers. When a young mother with a crying toddler struggled to balance her tray, Rosa rushed over without hesitation, offering a tired but genuine smile as she helped her to a table. "Thank you so much," the mother said, relief clear in her voice. Rosa simply nodded and went back to work. Meanwhile, behind the counter, Liam spotted Noah, a younger barista who seemed new. He fumbled slightly with the espresso machine, earning an eye roll from Danielle. "Seriously, how hard is it to steam milk?" she scoffed, loud enough for the growing line of customers to hear. Noah looked down, clearly embarrassed, but said nothing. Liam's frustration grew. It wasn't just bad service, it was a toxic culture where employees were either burned out, indifferent, or too intimidated to speak up. When his order finally arrived, Liam took a seat in the corner, slowly sipping his coffee as he continued to observe. Customers hesitated at the counter, sensing Danielle's impatience. A few seemed ready to leave before even ordering. Rosa, on the other hand, kept things from completely falling apart, stepping in where she could, offering small gestures of kindness that weren't part of her official duties. Liam left the cafe with a sinking feeling. The issue wasn't just a single rude employee. There was a complete lack of accountability. If this was happening at one of their busiest locations, what was going on elsewhere? As he walked out the door, he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. Liam's next stop was a suburban cafe, one that had been flagged for high employee turnover and frequent customer complaints. As he walked in, the atmosphere felt tense. Unlike the chaotic disarray of the downtown cafe, this location was clean and organized, but there was something noticeably off. The energy was low, and the employees moved with robotic efficiency rather than enthusiasm. It didn't take long for Liam to understand why. At the counter, the manager, Tom, a tall, wiry man in his 40s, was barking orders at the staff. "Move faster! We're not running a daycare here!" he snapped at a teenage employee who was struggling to wrap a breakfast sandwich. The young girl, Mia, flinched at his words, her hands shaking slightly as she tried to keep up. Her nervous glance toward the growing line of customers made it clear she was terrified of making a mistake under Tom's scrutiny. Liam ordered a cappuccino and a muffin, keeping his voice casual. As he stepped aside to wait, he watched Tom's demeaning attitude spread through the team like a virus. A group of college students waiting for their drinks exchanged glances as Tom loudly sighed and muttered, "Unbelievable. Some of you can't even handle the simplest tasks." The cafe was running efficiently, but at a heavy cost. Every employee looked either miserable, exhausted, or desperate to avoid Tom's wrath. Among them, Liam spotted a young barista named Ethan. Unlike the others, he still greeted customers with a polite smile, taking extra care to ensure their orders were correct. When an elderly man struggled to read the menu, Ethan patiently walked him through the options, even offering to adjust the order to better fit his dietary needs. Liam admired his composure, but he could also see the way Ethan tensed up whenever Tom was nearby. It was clear that even the best employees were being worn down by toxic leadership. As Liam sat at a corner table, he struck up a quiet conversation with Mia as she wiped down the table next to him. "Busy morning, huh?" he said casually. She gave a weak smile. "Yeah, it's always like this when Tom's here." She hesitated before lowering her voice. "He's been here forever, so no one really does anything about it, but most people don't last long with him in charge." Before Liam could respond, Tom's voice cut through the air again. "Mia, quit chatting and get back to work." She flinched and hurried away, her face flushed with embarrassment. Liam clenched his jaw. This wasn't just a case of one rude barista. This was a culture problem, one that was actively driving employees away. As he left, he knew Tom's time at the company was coming to an end. Liam's final stop was at a newly opened café in a neighboring town, a location that had been struggling with high employee turnover and poor customer retention. As he stepped inside, he immediately noticed a different kind of problem. The café was running like a machine, but there was no warmth, no personality, no sense of hospitality. The employees worked efficiently, but they barely interacted with customers. It felt more like a transactional service counter than a welcoming café. As Liam approached the register, he saw a young cashier named Ryan ringing up customers. His movements were stiff and mechanical, his voice flat and monotone. When a middle-aged woman politely asked if she could substitute a salad for fries, Ryan sighed loudly and shook his head without looking up. "No substitutions," he said bluntly, already moving on to the next customer. The woman frowned. "I've done it before." Ryan didn't even glance at her. "Not my problem," he muttered under his breath. Liam felt a pang of frustration. This was the kind of attitude that killed customer loyalty. Liam took his seat near the counter, observing the cafe's inner workings. Behind the scenes, one employee stood out. A man in his late 40s named Carlos was handling 2 stations at once, flipping sandwiches on the grill while assembling orders with impressive speed. Unlike the rest of the staff, Carlos actually stepped in to help others when they struggled. When a younger worker had trouble wrapping a sandwich properly, Carlos quickly showed him the right technique. "Tuck the edges tighter, like this," he said, his tone calm and encouraging. The younger employee nodded in relief, grateful for the help. Despite his skill and experience, Carlos was clearly overworked. He bounced between stations, picking up slack where others fell short, but instead of frustration, his face carried quiet determination. He wasn't just doing his job, he was holding the kitchen together. As the dinner rush began, the customer experience deteriorated further. Ryan's impatience worsened, and he began rolling his eyes when customers hesitated while ordering. At one point, a father with 2 young kids stepped up, and when the children couldn't decide on their drinks, Ryan practically groaned. "Can you hurry it up? There's a line," he snapped. The father's face flushed with embarrassment as he quickly placed the order, clearly uncomfortable. That was the last straw for Liam. He stood up and approached Ryan. "Can I talk to you for a second?" he asked, keeping his voice firm but controlled. Ryan blinked in surprise but nodded. Liam led him to a quiet corner. "I've been watching how you interact with customers," Liam said, "and it's not okay." Ryan shrugged dismissively, but Liam pressed on. "Your job isn't just to take orders, it's to make people feel welcome. If you can't do that, we need to have a serious conversation about whether this is the right place for you." Ryan hesitated, then exhaled sharply. "Look, I'm not trying to be rude," he admitted, "but it's hard to care when no one here cares about us. We're understaffed, overworked, and underpaid. Maybe if the company treated us better, we'd act better." Liam felt a wave of guilt. Ryan's attitude wasn't excusable, but his frustration was valid. He realized the problem at this location wasn't just bad employees. It was low morale and burnout. As Liam left the cafe, he made a mental note. Carlos deserved recognition and support. Ryan needed accountability, but also better leadership. The issue ran deeper than customer service training. It was time to fix the company from the ground up. Liam knew it was time to take action. The problems he had uncovered weren't just isolated incidents, they were symptoms of a deeper cultural failure within his company. The next morning, he called Olivia, the regional manager, and arranged a surprise visit to the suburban cafe where Tom had been mistreating employees. This time, Liam didn't bother with a disguise. As he walked through the doors, employees froze in surprise. Some exchanged nervous glances, while Tom's face went pale as he spotted the CEO standing in the middle of his cafe. Liam wasted no time. He gathered the entire team into the break room for a staff meeting, making it clear that he was there to listen. "I've spent the last few days visiting different locations, seeing firsthand what's really happening in my company," Liam began, scanning the room. "And what I've seen has been unacceptable." He turned his attention to Mia and Ethan, encouraging them to speak freely. At first, they hesitated, stealing glances at Tom, but with a little reassurance, they opened up. Mia's voice was shaky but firm. "A lot of us, we're scared to say anything, but it's hard working here. We feel like we're always walking on eggshells." Ethan nodded in agreement. "We're constantly getting yelled at, even when we're doing our best," he added. "And I've seen good people quit because they couldn't handle it anymore." Tom stiffened, his jaw tightening. "I was just keeping things running efficiently," he defended himself. "If these kids can't handle a little pressure, that's on them." Liam's expression hardened. "There's a difference between efficiency and abuse," he said firmly. "And from what I've seen, you've created an environment where employees feel intimidated and disrespected. That's not the culture I want in my company." He took a deep breath before delivering the final blow. "Effective immediately, Tom. You're no longer with this company." A stunned silence filled the room. Tom opened his mouth as if to argue, but must have realized it was useless. He grabbed his things and left without another word. The tension in the room lifted immediately. Some employees let out quiet sighs of relief, while others exchanged cautious looks. Liam turned back to the team. "I'm sorry it took me this long to see what was happening," he said, "but that changes today." He turned to Ethan. "Your professionalism and dedication haven't gone unnoticed. I'd like to offer you a promotion to shift supervisor." Ethan's eyes widened in shock. "Wow! Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." Before leaving, Liam reassured the team that things were going to change. He promised more leadership support, better training, and an open-door policy for employee concerns. As he walked out of the cafe, he felt a sense of resolve. One toxic leader was gone, but the real work was just beginning. Back at company headquarters, Liam wasted no time. He called an emergency leadership meeting, gathering his senior managers, HR team, and regional directors into the boardroom. As they settled in, he placed a thick folder on the table, the handwritten notes from his undercover visits. The room fell silent as he began. "Over the past few days, I've seen things I never should have had to witness," Liam said, his tone calm but firm. "Disengaged employees, toxic managers, good workers being driven out because of poor leadership. This isn't just a problem, it's a systemic failure, and it ends today." A few managers exchanged uneasy glances. Some looked guilty, while others seemed indifferent, clearly underestimating the seriousness of the situation. Liam continued, "We've been so focused on expansion that we've lost sight of our people, the ones who actually keep this company running. I won't let that happen anymore. We're making changes across the board." He turned to Olivia, the regional manager who had helped him investigate. Starting immediately, you'll be leading a full-scale review of every single cafe. I want candid, unfiltered feedback from employees, anonymous if necessary. If they have concerns, I want to hear them. Olivia nodded, already jotting down notes. Next, Liam addressed HR and training departments. We're completely overhauling our manager training program. If you can't lead with respect and accountability, you don't belong here. Every location will undergo mandatory leadership training, focusing not just on efficiency, but on creating a positive work environment. A few managers shifted uncomfortably. Those who had been getting by with aggressive tactics knew their days were numbered. Then, Liam turned to employee recognition. It's not just about fixing problems. We need to celebrate the people who are doing things right. Employees like Rosa, Ethan, and Carlos, they're the ones keeping our company afloat while others drag it down. We're launching a recognition and reward program so that great work doesn't go unnoticed. One manager cautiously raised a hand. What about locations that are performing well? Some of our stores don't have these problems. Liam nodded. You're right, and we'll be highlighting and learning from those successes too. But ignoring the broken parts of our company isn't an option. As he looked around the room, he saw a shift in energy. Some managers looked inspired, others nervous, but for the first time in a long time, everyone understood that things were changing. Liam's voice was resolute as he finished. This isn't just about saving face. It's about rebuilding trust within our teams and with our customers, and we're starting now. The meeting adjourned with a new sense of urgency. Liam had taken the first step toward fixing the company's culture from the ground up. Now, it was time to put these plans into action. 2 weeks later, Liam set out on his follow-up visits, eager to see if the changes he had set in motion were taking effect. His first stop was the downtown café, the location where Danielle's bad attitude had driven customers away and where Rosa's quiet dedication had kept things from falling apart. As he walked in, he immediately noticed a shift in energy. The café was cleaner, employees moved with more purpose, and there was noticeably less tension in the air. He observed the counter, where Danielle was still working, but this time she greeted customers with a neutral tone instead of open irritation. Rosa was still diligently helping customers, but for the first time, Liam saw another employee assisting her, rather than leaving her to do everything alone. When he approached the counter and ordered a coffee, Danielle's usual sigh never came. Instead, she completed the transaction without It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Next, Liam headed to the suburban café, where he had fired Tom, the toxic manager, and promoted Ethan in his place. The difference was night and day. Employees looked relaxed and engaged, moving through their tasks without fear of being yelled at. Ethan, now officially a shift supervisor, led by example, checking in with employees and stepping in to help during the busy lunch rush. When Liam ordered a latte and sat near the counter, he saw Mia smiling as she chatted with a customer, a stark contrast to the nervous, flinching worker she had been under Tom's rule. "How's everything been since the change?" Liam asked Ethan when there was a lull. Ethan grinned. "Honestly, better than I ever imagined. It's like people actually want to be here now." Liam nodded, satisfied. Removing one bad leader had completely transformed the store's culture. For his final stop, Liam visited the newer café, where Ryan's bad attitude and Carlos's quiet leadership had shaped the store's dynamic. This was the location Liam had been most concerned about, and as he stepped inside, he braced himself. The good news? Carlos was still running the kitchen like a pro, keeping orders moving smoothly while mentoring new hires. But Ryan? He was gone. After a probationary period, he had ultimately chosen to leave rather than change his ways. In his place, Liam saw a younger cashier who greeted customers with a smile instead of an eye roll. The tension in the air was gone, replaced with an efficient but welcoming atmosphere. "Carlos, how's it going?" Liam asked, shaking his hand. The veteran employee chuckled. "A lot better now. We've got a team that actually works together, and I'm not having to put out fires all day." Liam smiled. "Good. Because I want you to lead new hire training across all locations." Carlos's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "You're a natural leader," Liam said, "and it's time the whole company learns from you." 3 months after his undercover mission, Liam gathered his employees for a company-wide meeting. Morale had improved, turnover had dropped, and customer satisfaction had surged. Looking out at the crowd, employees who now felt heard, valued, and supported, Liam knew the company had turned a corner. He had started this journey to fix his business, but in the end, he had done something even greater. He had restored the trust and dignity of the people who made it run. The biggest lesson Liam learned from his undercover journey was that a company's success isn't just about profits or expansion, it's about the people who keep it running every day. Employees are the heart of any business, and when they feel undervalued, mistreated, or ignored, it directly impacts both customer experience and overall performance. Through his visits, Liam saw firsthand how bad leadership created toxic environments, pushing away good workers and driving down morale. He also realized that great employees often go unnoticed, quietly holding businesses together while struggling under poor management. The difference between a failing store and a thriving one wasn't just efficiency, it was respect, support, and leadership that empowers people to do their best. The story highlights the importance of staying connected to the front lines, listening to employees, and creating a culture where hard work is recognized. A business isn't just built on numbers, it's built on trust, accountability, and the people who show up every day to make it succeed. For Liam, the biggest change wasn't just in his company, it was in his understanding of what real leadership means. And that made all the difference.